hard, snowy waves. These were anything but pleasant to work among, especially when one could not see them. This is like another thing, since the weather is already bad that it's like blinding them. There was big hard snow waves. And he said that they're like already unpleasant. And on line 9 through 11, the Sassubi were very high and often abrupt. If one came on them unexpectedly, one required to be more than an acrobat to keep on one's feet. This also shows that like how dangerous it is. That if like one came out of you, and if one came like unexpectedly, it was like hard to keep on your feet. Yes.
Do you think the saying "one required to be more than an acrobat to keep on one's feet" is like an exaggeration, or do you think he was being serious when he said that?
I think like what he means by that is like if it came at you unexpectedly, like it was super hard to like stay on your feet. So yeah, I kind of think he was being like serious about it. Yes, Jared.
I also thought he was being serious that it was hard to walk up the snow. This is spookies, but it was very hard. And you have to have very good balance like an acrobat. But you're not actually an acrobat. You get me?
I don't really get what you're saying.
It's hard to get up the security, but you don't have to be like an acrobat to do it.
Yeah.
It's just hard.
So you think that that's an expression?
Yeah.
Like he's using a little bit of a hyperbole there to describe the
Or
kind
A
of.
slight exaggeration.
Or personification. Wait, no.
Well, actually, if we look at it closely, he says that on line 11, 10 to 11, one required to be more than an acrobat to keep on one's feet. So it's actually a comparison between a regular person and an acrobat, and it's using the word than, T-H-A-N, to make the comparison. So does anybody actually know what literary device it is an example? It sounds like everybody knows it's figurative language, but we're not quite sure what it is. If you have a whole class here.
Simile? Yeah.
That's a simile. So you might want to write that in next to it if you didn't label it first time around, but I think maybe that's why everybody kind of can tell that it's an example of figurative language, but you weren't able to identify which one. Jared, that might answer your question.
Yes, it does. Thank you, Dee.
Yes.
I think that he was being serious because he said that if one came around you unexpectedly, you wouldn't have the time to know what to do. And probably, I think that he was not exactly that he actually meant that you have to be more than that.
I agree with Alan, because according to what Courtney showed us yesterday, it was so big that if it covered an area of that size, that I think unless you were like a very fit person, you wouldn't be able to get out of the way as fast.
And also because they had the weather, which was blinding them, because it was drifting snow, so that just made it even harder.
Yeah, he said that. He said, these were anything but pleasant to work with, especially when one cannot see them. Jared?
Wait, what was your question again? I forgot.
Any
Oh, I'm sorry.
other questions? Jared?
On line 34. Hanson's neck grew twice as long before the endeavor to see if he would just fire farther. Do you think that was because of such a bad weather there to make that adaptation? Wait, no, that's not that. Yeah, do you think that has something to do with weather?
That's something too. Do I think that that's because of the weather?
because he had to like look ahead so much harder because of the weather. It wasn't as easy as it used to be.
Jason?
But isn't that also an exaggeration because your neck can't grow twice as long? Yeah, like that is. Jared?
So it's an exaggeration, yes, it is, however, that doesn't mean that it's not true that he's extending his neck to see
Oh.
further. And we did talk about this in yesterday's discussion, so if you're not remembering, or you didn't really pay attention to, I'm pretty sure it was Haley, right? We kinda had a whole conversation about this line based on her facilitation yesterday. If you don't remember it, then, you know, that's not really Dean's. That's not really Dean's topic, so let's try to keep it on topic. And you can keep going.
Yes.
Line 1, where it says next day, December 5th, there was a gale from the north. I don't really understand what a gale is. Is it like a storm or like a wind or something?
Yeah, I'm not. Tim? A gale is a gust of wind.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Alright, if there's no more questions.
Okay, so I just have some age. And my question was, what blue blood Scott and his crew to believe that they were going to make it? And my first piece of evidence was on line 11, and it says his sharp eyes detected what he thought was a cairn, or a cairn. And this shows that the Norwegians have been in the same spot that they are going through. And then on line 14 through 15, it says, near the remains of a camp, sled tracks and scoot tracks. That's not word for word, but it's what was there. And the Norwegians have been to the spot and they've surpassed the, what are they, Englishmen?
Yes, I'm gonna just stop for a second, because I think your question, what's your question?
I think it's saying, what are some of the census Scott's group to believe that they were first and full?
Okay, is that what you said?
Yeah.
I thought you said what clues show that Scott and his crew
Yeah, you didn't.
knew they weren't going to make it.
Oh,
So
that was the first question I had down on that.
Okay, so that's,
Cause that was
I think I read.
she thought she was.
Oh, I
going
wrote
to
that, I
do
wrote
X, Y.
Mallory's down on accident.
okay, so let's start over, because I'm confused, are we all, let's make sure we're all on the same page.
Okay, I meant make it to the full one then first.
Okay, so then I think probably starting over would help us all follow along a little bit better.
Okay. Well, but I still use the same details, so should I just reread the first two? Okay. Well, then on line 11, it says, where is it? His sharp eyes detected what he thought was a cairn. He was uneasy about it, but argued that it must be a stretch cruise. And this shows that the Norwegians have made a cairn, which is a heap of stones on top of each other, used as a landmark, to show that they are on their way to full or having made it to full. And then on lines 14 through 15, it says, nearby the remains of a camp, sled tracks and ski tracks, going and coming, and the clear trace of dogs' paws, many dogs. This told us the whole story. The Norwegians have foretold us and are full. And it's like they're kind of realizing that the Norwegians have passed them and they're not going to be the first ones to discover the pole, but then they decided to still go anyways. And then my last piece of evidence is through lines 46 through 48. And it says, we have just arrived at this camp, then it's 2 miles from our camp, therefore 1.5 miles from the pole. In the tent we find, what? What's it called? The pole. In the tent we find a record of 5 Norwegians have been here as follows. Roald Amundsen, Olav Olafsson, Hilmer Hansen, H. Hassel, Oscar Wisting, and 16 December 1911. And it shows that not only were the Englishmen beat, they were beat by a whole month. And it shows that the Norwegians have made them as their solid proof that it actually did happen.
I don't know if it was your first or second detail, but it was on lines 11 through 13. No, 11 through 12.
First of all,
Yeah, it says, sharp eyes detected that he thought was a Karen, which was a heap of stones next to each other. But then on line 13, it says, soon he knew that this could not be a natural snow feature.
Okay.
So I'm kind of confused,
Oh,
because
okay.
you said it was.
Okay, it's not natural because the Norwegians, it says, the definition, it's a heap of stones on top of each other using a landmark. So it's not natural, but it's the rocks that they found, they put piled them on top to make a landmark. And it
Oh,
was
okay.
named Skylar.
I knew what you were saying was like, they said, that it couldn't be a natural snow feature because after they said they thought it was a cairn, they said, like, after he was uneasy about it, he like just said to himself that it must be a Sesquipy, like, you know,
They're trying to deny the fact that the Norwegians might have made it before them.
and then they said later that it wasn't a Sesquipy.
Are you still going? Oh, okay, Laura.
On line 15, when it says there was a case where it said dollar clause, didn't you say that they made it before them, so how did it, here's this dollar clause?
I really don't know how the dock was kind of still there. Because if they did make it a whole month before, that's, I really don't know how the dock is still there. So,
Well, I don't know if there's like indents in the snow, but I know that some things like bodies and stuff are preserved in gold. So I don't know if that's the same thing with the dog. All that stuff maybe.
maybe, Jack.
If the weather wasn't so bad for, Scott, do you think he would have beaten the Norwegians?
Somewhat, because they kept taking breaks with the blizzards that keep hitting them, and they would have made it to the details earlier, so I think maybe they would have, but they were beat by a whole month, so
Yeah.
I really don't know if it would have.
Going back to your third detail, how do you think Scott felt when he found out that, the Norwegians beat them by over a month?
Probably really embarrassed, because it's like all this work that they put into it for no apparent reason, like they knew for a solid fact that the Norwegians had made it, and that they lost. Laura?
Since there were so many blizzards, do you think that in the beginning they actually were near each other, like close by each other, but then the blizzard slowed down Robert, but then didn't slow down?
Like the two different teams?
Yeah.
Maybe, because it does say for, Roald Amundsen's team that they took a different route than the English team did, so maybe, I don't know really about that.
I wouldn't be so sure about that because Roald Amundsen also had a special boat that he used, so that could have gotten him like ahead in the seaside part of the journey. And also, Scott didn't know about it, so he could have been like taking his time, but
Yeah.
so he was already behind maybe.
Okay.
And I remember in the video that it showed, Robert and Scott, they took